We're going to have our first introduction to the metaverse. And this is Lan Tran. Lan is a member of the Zonta Club of Perth. And this talk today was triggered by an absolutely unreal conversation I had with Lan a couple of weeks ago. And I said, you've got to speak to the think tank to introduce them to the metaverse. Anyway, Lan gave me this summary, which I will share with you. Her superpower is that of reinvention. I just love that. As a former refugee, she has learned from an early age the importance of adapting and making the most of the existing circumstances wherever she finds herself. Her determination to overcome early linguistic disadvantage has allowed her to gain a double first-class honour in communication studies, which led to a multi-award-winning national sales and account management career in diverse industries for over 2 decades. Her ongoing quest for adapting to the new world order has led her to the metaverse and us as well. She's an integral part of Ninja Syndicate global reach and marketing team and is well placed to articulate the wonderful world of Web3, that's blockchain and crypto, NFTs, that's non-fungible tokens, and the phenomenon of play-to-earn crypto gaming. We're not training and providing direction to the sales and marketing force. Lan is building key relationships and securing industry partnerships to give supremacy, that's the gaming environment that she's working with at the moment, and XSyn, it might be pronounced differently, XSYN, which is AWS, which I think is Amazon working something for the metaverse, and giving the recognition they deserve for bringing a fresh, ambitious and proven platform for metaverse gaming. So Lan, I'm going to hand over to you. I'll stop the share. So as you're currently in Texas at the Consensus Convention, which brings together all sides of blockchain, crypto, Web3 and the metaverse. So I'm over to you. Okay, Lan?
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much, Carol. That's a pretty comprehensive introduction. So I'm a bit humbled by that. Yeah, so I don't know in the room that we're speaking to, if apart from the conversation I had with you, if others in this space are familiar with the term metaverse and NFT and Web3. Okay. So I'm just gonna.
I would take a blank canvas approach, Lan.
Okay. In that case, what I do is I will keep it short within 10 minutes, just to give you a bit of an overview and a taste of what that means. And then it's something that we can actually explore later, bit by bit, because how you eat a pig, bit by bit. So that's really how I tackle it for myself. Elephant, pig, elephant. I just think that pig is nice and tasty. So basically, what the metaverse means, there's so many ways that you can understand it. But ultimately, if you think of the progression of our technology, you have Web 1. So in the 1990s, you have Web 1, where you search for information. And so it's read-only information, and that's Web 1. Web 2 is where you can actually read information, but you can also create your information. So it's called user-generated content, and that's Web 2. And that happened more towards the 2008 to 2015. And, that is relating to Facebook, Instagram, and all those different social, Twitter and YouTube, all those different social media channels. But the read and write capability is quite centralized. So Web 2, it made overnight billionaires of a very small group of people, like Facebook and Netflix and Google, because you can read and write content, but you are using their platform. So they can de-platform you. And you have seen that example when Twitter de-platformed Trump, which is not a bad thing. But the flip side of it is that if you are a creator of incredible content and you are deemed politically incorrect, or you are deemed politically very controversial, or you write something that you deeply care about to a whole community, and the platform decide that it's not appropriate and cut you out, then that is a big risk for you know, your right to actually articulate meaning. And you know, if you live in a free society like where we are, you know, it's not so obvious. But if you live in a more a more draconian society, then the fact that a platform can deplatform you and, you know, and eliminate your voice is still a risk, and it's actually something that, you know, that is a Web 2 scenario. Web 3 is where we are now and where we're heading to. And Web 3 is where it's you can read content, write content, so user-generated content. But the difference between Web 2 and Web 3 is that we're moving into a situation of owning our own data, which means if you didn't like Facebook, because I don't know if you probably know already, but every time you choose to use Facebook and you put your photo in Facebook, you have already signed away your right to them being able to use that content how they wish. So they actually have ownership of the photo that you put inside. They haven't done anything bad with it just yet, but that can happen because they own that content. The other thing that Facebook do is they actually sell our data. You know, that's how they actually, you know, all these very customized advertising that is actually, you know, that has been put forward in front of you, in front of your feed, is because Facebook has all these algorithms to understand what type of consumer you are, sell your data to certain corporation, so they have benefited from your data. And that's Web 2. Web 3 is where you can say, I create my content, I don't like what Facebook is about. You take your content elsewhere, find a different platform, all that content, all that history about what you are, you know, that you've created for your family, like a Lego piece, you find another Lego platform and plug your data there. And that's what Web 3 means. And Web 3, Metaverse, is actually, that is really more or less the definition of Metaverse in Web 3. And what the Metaverse is about too, is that everyone will try to give you a different definition of the Metaverse, the way they understand it and where they sit. And that's okay, because the Metaverse is still being defined. Right. So last year, around August, September, you noticed that Mark Zuckerberg just went out and just said, look, we are rebranding ourselves as Meta, because Mark Zuckerberg can see the writing on the wall that you and I, as consumers and user of a platform, will have the power to move our data elsewhere, because we do not like what Facebook does with that data and how they can manipulate us with their knowledge of our data. So Mark Zuckerberg can see the writing on the wall, and you can also see Facebook share has been steadily decreasing. So that's why Mark Zuckerberg came out and tried to own the concept Metaverse, so that way he can take us into the journey of using VR, Oculus Quest, so that he can continue virtual reality, so he can have, or Facebook, Meta, can have continuous control of, you know, pushing data into our periphery. So that is just his definition, but it's not the definition. So that's really important to understand, that the Metaverse is Web 3, and the Metaverse is that it's like a twin reality of where you are now. So you and I, we live in this 3D environment, eat, live, work, play, learn, earn. The Metaverse should be a virtual environment where you can do the same thing. You can get into that space and you also live, play, earn, learn, and actually interact. And the economy inside of Metaverse is almost like in real life, if not in real life. And what I mean by that is, I shared with Carol what I thought was a very, very interesting phenomenon of play to earn crypto games. I don't know if you have come across of those stories, but what happened is that during COVID, when in the Philippines and in, third world, poorer country, what they actually found is that with the lockdown, a lot of them lost their job or they couldn't go out because of the lockdown. And they ended up actually playing this game called Axie Infinity. And I'm not a gamer. I don't understand the principle of why you want to spend the time to play a game when you could do something meaningful. But that's just me being judgmental, say I who work for a gaming studio. But what these Filipinos actually did was they played this game that is a crypto game. And when they actually, when these creatures in the game actually get together, it form a different creatures, which it meant something, it meant it has value, and they could actually put it out in a different place to sell that value. And someone in a richer country will buy that, and actually they earn real money from them playing the game. And it has been, it has been documented that a lot of them have actually ended up earning more than they did in their normal job. And that is a phenomenon that you can actually look it up. It's called play to earn. And you can just look up in YouTube and, in different places. And that is when the world start listening and watching this trend. And COVID have escalated that process. And so play to earn is a crypto gaming space that allow, I keep on saying poor population, just for me, it's easier to explain that concept, is allow people in a poorer economy to participate, when they actually don't have that mobility to move around, especially when there was COVID. So that's really something to look into. Now, Carol asked me to also explain what the NFT is, because, you probably heard it around. NFT means non-fungible token, which I know the first time I heard it from my son in June last year, it had no meaning to me. NFT, non-fungible token, it doesn't mean anything. Once I realized what it really means is that an NFT is a certificate of authenticity, which means in the past, if you had put a photo of yourself or you put a painting yourself and it's out on the World Wide Web, and later on you want to say, well, I own that photo, I own that painting, I own that poem that I wrote, you kind of can't prove it. It's out there and someone can take over and say, well, no, I wrote that poem. And, someone will have to investigate to see when it was posted, but you can never kind of prove it once it's gone out in the World Wide Web. So with the NFT, that is where it's actually changing the landscape of the virtual environment, where the NFT, because it's actually lock your photo, your painting, your poetry, your creation into a blockchain that sits, it's a series of algorithmic codes inside the virtual world. And because when you put it on as an NFT, it gets locked into the blockchain, it means it cannot be corrupted because it's in a chain. Someone cannot corrupt it later. And that's what NFT is. It is a certificate of authenticity. And it's also, what is powerful about NFT is if you know how to create the NFT as a strategy to create value in the NFT, you could actually insert into that value the concept of royalty. So what it means is that artists and musicians think of, hypothetically, Vincent van Gogh, and, in the time, I didn't do very well with my art because, I'm barely surviving and I'm desperate to sell one piece of painting. So when someone come along and buy it for $100, I'm just grateful because I haven't been earning anything for weeks. So I will sell the artwork. 20 years later, that artwork will actually change hand and someone else recognize my talent and pay $20,000. And then later on, and generation later, it go through Christie's, 2 billion. I, as an artist, and my family will never ever see the value and benefit of that of my art and my creation. Someone else down the track and the middleman will benefit from it, but not me, the artist, the musician, the creator. What is powerful about NFT is that you could actually, inside that smart contract, when you've actually created an NFT and create value in it, is you put royalty in it. Just like authors, you know, how they are earning continuous royalty. So that every time it changes hand, it could be 5%, it could be 10%, it could be 20%. But it means every time it changes hand, I benefit, my family benefit, and generation benefit, which means distribution of wealth and income is actually more equal, as opposed to the have continually be the have and the have not because of circumstance and because of lack of connection to the right people or in the right place, I would not benefit. So that's the value of the NFT. And I do have a few ideas. I'm not going to overwhelm you today about what we can do with it, but that's a very powerful understanding of what NFT means if you actually create value into it. And why it matters is that the metaverse and the NFT is like the key for us to get into the metaverse. Understanding what it can do and supporting projects that does it, or creating project ourselves that has an NFT will help unlock us into the metaverse and allow us to be more impactful with what we're trying to create for communities that we work with around the world. And that's really important. And I actually have, even in, just in the last couple of days since I've been in Texas, Austin, Texas, I have come across several projects that have worked with the NFT to make sure that there is equal distribution of wealth to the community that they want to support. And that is something that is, it is confronting to see how quickly we can change the world just from understanding that piece of the puzzle. And following up from this meeting, I will send a few examples for you to look at so that you can go, oh, okay, I can see what that means, because it's profound, but it is confronting in a way that we have worked so many years to, slowly creating change. We still create change and it's still powerful, but it has been a slow and arduous process to get certain impact made and done. Whereas with this process, you are pretty much connecting with community, and it's about community being able to really become that spider web effect that is exponential. And that's the power of the metaverse and NFT.
That sounds great, Lan. Thank you. I'm watching people's faces and they go, oh, this is just how I did when we had this conversation originally. And the thing that did it for me was when you explained that basically people were playing like a video game in the Philippines, and as they reached a new level, they won tokens, which is like the NFTs that you were talking about, which they converted to Bitcoin. The Bitcoin they then used to feed their families. And that was the bit that threw me. I thought, because you actually had this metaverse, this unreal environment feeding families in the real world. And that's the implications of that with regards to the gender digital divide. We could actually, the women are out there gathering the water and gathering the wood, and the boys are inside playing video games, earning money. And it just blew my brain. Anyway, so thank you very much, Lan, for introducing that. Did anyone have a quick question that they wanted to ask Lan? Yes, Suzanne, you're on mute. You're on mute, Suzanne.
So, Lan, is this like a possible answer to some of the employment problems around the world where we're saying, people can't get jobs? Is this actually a way that they can earn income?
Definitely, definitely. In fact, the example that Carol has just pointed out is actually documented and people are doing it, and there is a whole new industry of guilds setting up to actually help these people from these countries to actually get into the games, get into crypto game to actually earn money for their family. The other day, I was in I was actually sitting, listening to a panel where, there was a speaker who was saying how it impacts Latin American communities. And he was pointing out that, if you think like Mexico and, and all those, I don't know my geography too well, but Mexico and those kind of country where there's, it's overruled by drugs cartel, and that the youth in those countries end up being drug mules, because they don't have any employment opportunity and they're desperate to get out of their poverty. And what he actually said is that because of the crypto gaming, crypto gaming being now more prolific, and actually it's something that have proven to actually generate income for community, this is something that can be offered to the youth, and they are not having to, resort to being drug mules when they can have an alternative way of earning income.
Interesting.
Interesting. That's great. Well, Lan, thank you so much for introducing us to the metaverse. We'll let people have time to absorb, and if you have any links that you'd like to send through, we can share them with the think tank, which would be wonderful. And when you're in the rest of Consensus 2022, carry on doing what you're doing and think about ways that we can actually use the metaverse to bridge the gap for poverty as well, with to make women less poor, which would be wonderful. And
I just want to say something as well, Carol, because I just want to say that we can actually do something now as well with regards to the metaverse. Just one final point there is that crypto gaming and play to earn is one aspect of it. And you know how I said to you that with Web3 metaverse, you actually have ownership of your content, of your data, and you have choice of who you want to engage with, like which podcast you listen to, which music you want to stream your way. Well, there are actually different projects out there where they actually, if you actually plug into their ecosystem, and one of them is a project called Shenomic. It's like Shenomic, basically. And that project is where she collects a whole many podcasts about women, leaderships and, different way of supporting girls and women from birth to as they get older throughout their life in different communities. And there's podcast experiences where if you actually subscribe to listen to those podcasts, every time you listen to the podcast, an amount of token, they're called tokens, but it's like a representation of a dollar value that is actually deposited into your account. So that later on with that amount, you can actually say, well, I want to donate to this charity. So just something for you to think about is that we can have real impact just from making choices of what we listen to and which ecosystem that we plug into, we connect with, to actually have that opportunity, earn the token, and convert that into real money to go to community. And I know when I was speaking to her this afternoon, it basically means that every time you listen to a podcast, there's a certain amount that will go to woman or girl in a different part of the world that help them towards their education. Just because you listen to the podcast and you plug into that economy, you and me.
Brilliant. Send us an email about that one, Lan. That would be fantastic, because I'm sure we want to explore that further. I'm very aware that it's midnight your time and it's time for your bed, because you're going to have a busy day tomorrow. But thank you so much for joining with us today. We really, really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. I hope I haven't overwhelmed you guys too much, because I was overwhelmed.
It's all right. Sometimes always the worst. Everyone will learn as we get you more used to the language. I think that's great, Lan. Thanks for introducing us to it. That's wonderful.
All righty. Take care, ladies. Thank you.
Bye.
See you now. Bye-bye.